I never believed in haunted things. Movies were fun, sure. Creepy little dolls with button eyes and cracked porcelain smiles? Pure fiction. So when I inherited my grandmother's old farmhouse in Dovetail Hollow, I didn't think twice about the attic. Until the third night. That's when I heard it. It was barely a sound at first. Just a faint scratch above my bedroom. Then a whisper. Not a breeze. Not an animal. A whisper. My grandmother, Miriam, had always been peculiar. She wore black even in the summer. She spoke in rhymes when she thought no one was listening. And she never, ever, let anyone into the attic. She called it Lububu's room. As a kid, I asked her who Lububu was. She just smiled and said, an old friend. She doesn't like being ignored. Creepy, right? But I forgot all about it, until she passed last spring. The house came to me, and with it, the attic key. On that third night, after the whispering started, I couldn't sleep. The sound wasn't loud. It was deliberate. Like someone brushing their fingertips across the wooden floor. I grabbed a flashlight and headed up the narrow stairs. The attic door was heavy, sealed tight with rusted locks. When I finally opened it, a sharp draft rushed out, and the bulb in the hallway flickered and went dead. Great. Inside, dust clung to the air like cobwebs. Old trunks, faded furniture, and moth-eaten boxes filled the space. And in the far corner, partially covered by a white sheet, was a child's rocking chair. It was rocking. Slightly. Back and forth. Back and forth. I approached it slowly, heart pounding. When I lifted the sheet, I found her. A handmade doll. She was stitched from patchwork fabric, her face crudely drawn with thread. Her eyes were large black buttons, unevenly sewn on. Her hair was yarn, frizzy, reddish-brown, like dried blood. Her mouth was an impossibly wide line of tiny red stitches, like someone sewed a smile on with a trembling hand. And around her neck was a faded paper tag, aged and stained. Lububu. Underneath, scrawled in trembling handwriting. She must be fed. She must be loved. Or she will whisper until you're hers. I stared at it, my skin crawling. My flashlight flickered. Behind me, the attic door slammed shut. I didn't scream. But I wanted to. With shaking hands, I picked up the doll. She felt oddly heavy for her size. The fabric was warm, too warm, and soft in some places, stiff in others. I shoved her into an empty box, sealed it with tape, and brought her down into the living room. Maybe she was just some weird craft my grandma made. A scare tactic to keep kids out of her space. That was the only logical explanation. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, the box was open. I hadn't opened it. I was sure of it. Lububu was sitting on my kitchen counter, facing the hallway. Her head slightly tilted. Waiting. I took her outside and threw her into the old burn barrel in the backyard. I lit a match and dropped it in. The fire roared, but for only a second. Then it died out. The doll sat there, untouched. No ash. No scorch marks. I didn't try again. By the end of the week, the whispering returned. It came at 3:13 a.m. every night. Always the same voice, high-pitched, playful, childlike. You see me now. I see you too. Don't leave me alone again. Playtime is forever. I tried sleeping with headphones. I tried prayer. I even saged the house, twice. But the whispers got louder. Closer. And then she started moving. One morning, I woke up to find Lububu sitting at the foot of my bed. Her head cocked. A single red thread dangled from her mouth like a tongue. I didn't put her there. I knew I didn't. I'd locked her in a drawer. I even tied it shut with wire. That same morning, I found muddy footprints. Small. Child-sized. Leading from the attic to my room. Only, they weren't footprints. Not exactly. They looked like the shape of stitched feet. Like the imprint of something soft and hollow, but moving. I called a local historian in town, an old woman named Miss Avira who used to know my grandmother. When I mentioned Lububu, her voice went flat. You found her. Don't feed it. Don't talk to it. Don't even think about naming it out loud. She told me the story, what little there was to know. Back in the early 1900s, a seamstress's daughter disappeared under mysterious circumstances. All that was left was her favorite doll, later identified as Lububu. Every family who found it after that reported similar events. Whispering voices, moving shadows, disappearing pets. Eventually, missing persons. Miss Avira said my grandmother never had children. She believed that Lububu chose her. And now, she's chosen me. That night, I recorded the sound. At 3:13 a.m. exactly, the room temperature dropped. My phone picked up static at first. Then the whispers returned. This time, they weren't words. They were singing. A lullaby. Twisted. Off-key. It looped for 30 seconds and ended with something unmistakable. A giggle. Not a recording glitch. Not audio interference. A giggle. In my room. I played the audio for a friend. He laughed it off, said I was being dramatic. So I dared him to stay the night. He didn't last till dawn. At 3:13 a.m., he ran out the front door barefoot, pale as chalk. He wouldn't speak for hours. When he finally did, he muttered only one thing. She asked me to sew. Now, I don't sleep much. I can't. I tried locking her away. I tried pretending she's not real. But she moves anyway. She whispers anyway. She watches anyway. And last night? I found my grandmother's journal. Her final entry was just 3 words. She won't leave. The first thing I noticed when I woke up was that every mirror in the house was covered. Not by me. Sheets, towels, curtains, even notebook paper. Every reflective surface had been blocked out during the night. And written on the bathroom mirror, beneath a crooked sheet of newspaper, was a message, scrawled in something red. Not blood. Lipstick. No looking. She's not ready. I didn't go to work that day. Instead, I called the real estate lawyer who had helped transfer my grandmother's estate to me. I asked about selling the place. He paused. Then said, "Mr. Hayes, your grandmother placed a restriction on the deed. The house cannot be sold, transferred, or rented. It's bloodlocked." Bloodlocked. I'd never heard that term before. He couldn't explain it further, just said it was old tradition and hung up. Old tradition? Or a curse? I went back into the attic that afternoon, flashlight in hand, heart thumping like a war drum. Lububu wasn't there. Not in the rocking chair. Not in any of the boxes. Just dust, shadows, and silence. But when I turned to leave, something shifted. A sound behind me. I froze. Rustle. Giggle. And then, a whisper. Low and urgent. "It's your turn now." That night, I bolted every door. Barricaded every window. I even tried sleeping with the lights on. But at 3:13 a.m., like clockwork, I woke up, freezing cold, and saw her. Not the doll. The girl. A child. Maybe 6 or 7. Wearing a tattered white dress with embroidered buttons down the front. Her skin was grayish, like old fabric. Her eyes were black and glossy. Too large. Too sewn. And in her hands? She held a needle and thread. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. I just watched as she stood at the foot of my bed, mouthing something silently. Then she turned. Vanished into the hallway. The next morning, I found a new stitch on my blanket. One long red thread sewn in the shape of a smile. That was the beginning of the game. Each night after that, Lububu gave me a task. Not in words. In signs. A broken toy placed on my pillow. A chalk drawing on the wall. A whisper in the bathroom tiles. Fix it. Or I take a piece. I thought I was losing my mind. Until the day I ignored her. I was tired. Angry. Desperate. I tore the doll apart, ripped out her stuffing, threw her into a garbage bag, and buried her in the woods behind the house. For a moment, I felt free. Lighter. But that night, she came back. This time, inside me. I woke up choking, mouth full of fabric. I ran to the bathroom mirror and opened my mouth. Something was lodged in the back of my throat. I reached in, gagging, and pulled out a long, wet button, still attached to a string of red thread. I threw up on the floor. When I looked back at the mirror, Lububu was standing behind me. I started documenting everything after that. Photos, recordings, journal entries. I even tried live streaming one night, set up a hidden camera at 3 a.m., pointed right at my bedroom. At 3:13, the feed went dark. When it returned, 10 minutes later, the camera was turned to the wall, and written in black marker was, "Stop watching. Start sewing." I needed help. So I called Miss Avira again. Begged her to tell me the truth. The real truth. She told me about the other families. The ones who'd tried to destroy Lububu. The ones who ignored her games. Every one of them had gone missing. Except one. A boy named Miles, who survived, but was never the same. He lives 2 towns over, in a care home. Refuses to speak. Draws only one thing, dolls with missing eyes. I drove out to see him. His room was small, lined with shelves of handmade dolls, some smiling, others headless. He didn't look at me. Just kept sewing. But when I showed him a photo of Lububu, he stopped. His hands shook. His lip trembled. He whispered, "Did she sing to you yet?" I nodded slowly. "It gets worse," he said. "When she sings, she wants a home. When she screams, she wants a body." I asked him how he survived. He looked at me for the first time. Eyes wide. I gave her someone else. Then he started sobbing. I drove home in silence. I couldn't think. Couldn't breathe. My mind raced with the unspoken implication. Was that what my grandmother had done? Kept Lububu by offering up her life, to save mine? Was that why she'd left the house to me? Back at home, the air felt thicker. Heavy. Like breathing through wool. And on my bed was the doll, completely sewn back together. Only now, she was different. Her smile was longer. Her buttons were blacker. And on her chest, in tiny neat stitching, were the words, "Mine." Lububu wasn't just stitched back together. She had changed. Her arms now moved on their own, jerky, unnatural, like a puppet pulled by unseen strings. Her smile was wider, and her eyes gleamed with something that wasn't reflection, but awareness. She sat in the middle of my bed, legs dangling, head tilted, watching the door as I entered. And then, she spoke. Not a whisper. Not a song. A voice. "You broke our game." I backed out of the room slowly, but the temperature dropped like I'd stepped into a freezer. The lights flickered and buzzed. My vision blurred, as if the air itself was being pulled into her. My phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I hesitated, then answered. All I heard was soft breathing. Then, one more stitch, and I'm real. Click. I tried leaving the house. I made it to the porch, suitcase in hand, car keys gripped tight. But the world beyond the front steps was wrong. The road stretched endlessly, looping back into itself like a crooked figure eight. No neighbors. No wind. No sound. Only fog, and the faint creaking of a rocking chair. I turned back. Lububu was sitting on the porch swing, staring at me. Waiting. I stopped eating. I stopped sleeping. I locked her in the basement. She still came back every night, always at 3:13 a.m. And now she brought things with her. Dead animals on my doorstep. Knives laid out in a neat row on the kitchen table. Sewn voodoo figures, of me, with strands of my own hair threaded through their eyes. One night, I tried burning the house down. I drenched everything in gasoline, walls, floors, furniture. Struck a match and dropped it in the hallway. It lit fast. Flames climbed the wallpaper like angry vines. I ran. But as I crossed the threshold, something yanked me back. I hit the floor hard, flames licking at the doorframe. Smoke filled my lungs. And then, I saw her. Lububu. Standing in the middle of the burning hallway. Unaffected. Her button eyes glowing orange in the firelight. She raised her hand, and every flame vanished. Smoke curled backward like someone hit rewind. The house was untouched. I lay there coughing on clean floorboards. And Lububu whispered, "This is my body now." I knew then what she wanted. She wasn't trying to scare me. She was preparing me. Lububu wasn't just a haunted doll, she was unfinished. Incomplete. She needed a body. A host. A human form she could wear like clothes. And every night she whispered and stitched and waited for my resistance to crack. The final clue came in my grandmother's journal, buried in the crawlspace beneath the basement floor. I found it wrapped in silk, inside a rotting wooden box. The last page was a spell. Or a ritual. Written in red ink, maybe blood. To end the stitch, the bond must break. She needs to be seen, truly. Let her reflection swallow her. Let her soul see its own eyes. Or she will stitch herself into yours. It wasn't a riddle. It was a warning. She hated mirrors. That's why she covered them. That's why she erased her reflection. She couldn't possess what she could still see as herself. That night, I gathered every mirror I could find, floor-length, handheld, bathroom, antique. I set them up in a circle in the attic. Placed candles around the edges. And in the center, I laid Lububu. She didn't move. Not at first. She just sat there, limp. Until the clock struck 3:13 a.m. Then, her head snapped up. Her eyes rolled back. And she screamed. The scream wasn't human. It was a blend of static, shrieking wind, and a baby crying underwater. The mirrors shook violently. Cracks formed along the glass. But I didn't stop. I read from the journal aloud. Word for word. Let her soul face her thread-bound shell. Let the mirror be the needle. Let the stitch unravel, forever. Lububu levitated. Her body jerked and twisted in the air, arms flailing like tangled puppet strings. The mirrors started glowing, each reflecting a different version of her. One childlike. One monstrous. One burned. One with no eyes. One with my face. She screamed again, louder. The glass began to warp, pulling inward like a black hole. Her button eyes cracked. One fell off and shattered like glass. And then, silence. She dropped to the floor. Still. Just a doll. I waited. No whispers. No movement. I picked her up. She was light again. Hollow. No warmth. No weight. The stitched smile had come undone, thread hanging loose like a torn seam. I buried her beneath the crawlspace. Wrapped her in salt and iron. Said the final words from the journal 3 times. The game is done. The stitch is broken. The soul returns. And I left the house that night. The curse was over. I moved to the city. Started over. I kept the journal, just in case. I even started sleeping through the night again. No whispers. No 3:13 a.m. wake-ups. Peace. Or so I thought. Until yesterday. When I got a package in the mail. No return address. Just a small box, wrapped in silk. Inside? 1 black button. 1 red thread. And a note. Scrawled in trembling handwriting. Let's play again.